Boofed.
I'm getting better at timing those, I think. Like I'm barely having to do any sort of matching up in the editing.
Oh, yeah?
Like I've got the Discord delay figured out. I know how slow it is between me saying something and how long it takes you to hear it. So when I count down, I actually wait just that little bit extra for the Discord delay and then press the button.
You are the only guy I would know that would account for a fucking Discord delay so that he could cut down on half a second of editing.
Listen, don't make fun of me for being efficient, all right?
Yeah, dude. I mean, to be fair, I was going to do an edit today that was going to take about 2 days of editing time.
Yeah.
Just for fucking 40 seconds of footage. So,
yeah, not worth it.
Yeah.
Not fucking worth it.
All right. Well, welcome to NULLSCORE, a podcast where Hamish needs to come up with his own intro jokes because James can't be fucked. My name's Hash Brown and this is my co-host, Harry McClary. How is Donaldson's Dairy these days?
It's very nostalgic, mate. It really takes me back, almost to like earlier.
Really takes you
to
back?
a point earlier this day where I'm pretty sure I typed that exact thing out in the script.
Yeah, you did. So for those of you that are maybe just tuning in for the first time now, or you know maybe you've been around for a while, usually we take turns in writing the intros to NULLSCORE, and I take evens, you take odds. This week was my week, and. When we write our script, we have all the ideas there, and Jim's gone into the script and run this like this bullshit intro as like a hey, write your damn intro, and I've just gone nah, I'm gonna run with that.
I'll just use that one.
That looks great.
You've already done the work for me. Fuck it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh,
so there you go. You're already no original work involved in that one. I'm just parroting earlier ideas, which is a fantastic segue in what we're talking about today.
It is, yeah.
Which is, I mean, loosely around nostalgia, but I also love the working title here. I like your old stuff better than your new stuff.
I was listening to the regurgitator. It's kind of worked.
Well, there you go. And today is all about reboots of old series. So last week we talked a lot about Doom Eternal. I think we're going to shift away a little bit from Doom Eternal because I think what we really want to talk about is where you see these good reboots, and Doom Eternal is a great one, but we're going to give some further examples of that, but also some real stinkers. Some just garbage, horrible remakes.
There's been some really shit comebacks, like to some IPs in the last 10 or so years, or even longer, I guess.
Attempts at a comeback.
Attempted comebacks,
yeah. So that was the focus today. We wanted to talk about some stuff that maybe lets us dip a little bit into what we had as in the childhood, a little bit of nostalgia. I say childhood, I'm fucking 24, dude. It's not even like that I'm
not
super
that old. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, unlike some of us.
My fucking feelings, man, every time. I love that that's a running joke in our community that I'm just this old guy.
You're just old.
Who sticks around and tries to stay cool and relevant among all you fucking dudes who are younger. The thing is, there's people in the community who are only like 1 year younger than me, but they still talk to me like I'm fucking 50. like I'm this old fart who just fucking doesn't belong there. I'm the fucking Steve Buscemi meme. How do you do?
They're in how do you do for like kids? Yeah. What are they like? They're in chat and they're leaving, and instead of typing like exclamation mark lurk, they're like hooroo Titan.
Yeah, hooroo mate.
Oh god.
Did you take your fucking meds yet?
That's true. That's true. So before we kick off into the old stuff, I like your old stuff better than your new stuff. Your new stuff was so much. You've changed, man. You wanted to talk about Shroud.
It's only a really short one, just so that we could have a clickbaity title with his face on it. No, not at all. It's just something that popped up today, actually.
Great. I like this. Good. Yes.
We already discussed where we were going with this like 2 or 3 days ago. And then I just saw this morning.
For reference, this podcast is recorded on April 2nd, for those of you out there.
Yes. We usually record these Thursdays. That's why it's dark now in my room and not light like last time, because we recorded on a fucking Sunday morning or whatever it was, and I had to edit Was it Saturday?
Well,
it might have been Saturday morning.
That was because you were ill, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was pretty sick Thursday, so I would have been shit. Would have been useless. So wouldn't have been able to talk about anything. You would have been carrying the whole thing, and I'm just sitting here looking at the camera and nodding.
Yep.
Which is, also a very old person thing to do. Just sit there, nod and smile, and I don't know what's happening, but I'm happy just to be here. Cream. So Shroud returning to pro scene for Valorant. That's it's kind of got people on the fence, I think, because it was released April 1st, of course.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's a very him thing to do. Leave you like.
You reckon it's double fake?
Because he's so serious all the time. It's just his demeanor. He's just very like blunt and blank, and he very rarely shows too much emotion. That making it a joke on April 1st, having an April Fool's, I don't know, has he done them before? I don't even know. I haven't paid close enough attention to his Twitter to know whether he does April Fool's typically.
As much as you say that Shroud is serious all the time, I'm firmly in the April Fool's camp here.
Yeah.
And two things lead me to the fact that this is just an April Fool's joke. The first is the way that it's written, right? It's a post. I think this written out letter format. I think if he was making a big announcement to return back to Valorant, Cloud9 would do a huge media thing.
He's not part of Cloud9 though.
Oh, who's he going back with?
I don't know. That's what I mean. He hasn't been in Cloud9 for ages. He left them, dude. That's why. Remember when he rebranded his stream with all the the cloak and fucking the cross AI thing? Well, all the Cloud9 shit was gone when he replaced it with that.
So how is he returned? Which team? We don't know which team.
At least I'm pretty sure he's not a member of Cloud9 anymore. He's not like a sub or anything. He's nothing. He's not anything to do with Cloud9 as far as I know. As for a team, who fucking knows, dude?
Right.
You could be right. It could just be a joke because it's got, he doesn't say that he's joining a team. He doesn't say who he's going to be playing with or anything. It is just like an open statement. Like, guys, I'm going to go pro again. Like, who fucking knows?
So that's one thing that leads me to believe. I think Shroud is such a hot property that if they were going to bring him on, they would blitz that shit.
Well,
it would be. It would be like the ninja move to Mixer. It would be like the Shroud move to Mixer all over it.
Well, I mean, that just kind of happened. Like he made some hints, I think, here and there that like a big change was coming soon, but he wouldn't say what. Yeah. And then it just fucking happened. This is a little bit different, I think, because there's a lot of hype around Valorant at the moment for as far as like competitive shooters goes, because it's a new thing and
Well, it's supposed to do what CS:GO does, but better. That's. I think it's cutting into CS:GO's. Well, here's the thing: maybe. CS:GO has massive issues with funding. It has huge issues with funding because of the nature of the game. It's terrorist and counter-terrorist side, and there's a bomb involved. Yeah. The amount of times where I have seen articles where sponsors have looked and they've seen that and they've just gone, nope.
Yeah, we can't be sponsoring a team that plays as terrorists. It's like, well, that's just like, no, that's half the time. That's only like, it's not always. Anyway,
it's more so just the content, I think, because you, especially in today's day and age, you're so liable to the hashtag cancel culture of Twitter that, something as simple as CS:GO. I think now CS:GO is a bit of a staple. You wouldn't see it as much. But man, we've seen shit dragged up from the past before, I mean, you don't necessarily have to sit there and, say, oh, look, I don't know whether the people are going to cause an issue about it. People have caused an issue about it, right? We've already had instances where this has happened. Valorant doesn't do that. If you looked in the footage that they've got, they deliberately called the quote unquote bomb a spike.
Yeah.
That's what it's called. It's called a spike. So it's deliberately designed that way. Overwatch did the same thing when they called it the
payload.
Oh, shit, what is that? Payload.
Yeah.
Yeah. To be fair, one of the payloads then turned out to be one of the newer characters they released. So not necessarily an explosive, but there are definitely some of those payloads that explode.
Yeah. No, they do. They blow off like a door or whatever, or they blow up at the end, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I think CS:GO has huge issues with funding. I think Valorant's going to come in and I think it's going to attack the part where CS:GO sits right now, which is that precision Twitch shooter space.
Yep.
I think Siege also occupies that area to a lesser extent because Siege is, to a certain extent, there's a lot of tactics in CS:GO, I think, but CS:GO relies incredibly heavily on your ability to just your physical capabilities and aim.
Yep.
I see a lot more in Rainbow Six strategy being involved. There's this fantastic video that I'll have to send you about a team reinforcing an empty room to make the opposite team think that the bomb is in a different room than it usually is. It's hilarious. It's so good.
Yeah.
I'll send it. I watched it the other day and I was like, there's some smart dudes on that team. There's some men after my own heart. I loved that clip. But I think, Valorant's probably going to try and cut in on CS:GO space. CS:GO heads are probably going to kick up a fuss about that.
Yeah.
But I can tell you right now, the way that Riot runs their professional tournaments and the way that they've designed Valorant so that it doesn't have any sponsor-unfriendly language in there, they are gunning for a piece of that pie.
Yeah.
That is exactly what they want.
Sending it up to make as much money as possible.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, of course, that's
well,
that's the whole point, I guess. But
the game's designed to be an esport. That's what it is. And I mean, that's what Riot's good at, really. The other thing that leads me to believe that Shroud may not be going pro is why? Where's the money in it?
Well, think about the move from Twitch to Mixer. They might have paid him like guaranteed him a chunk of money every year or something. They might have offered him some sort of salary, I suppose, or like some sort of package, some bulk payment maybe.
When we talk about this though, we've got to also earmark that and say that package is roughly in the square footage of fuckloads.
Yeah. It'd be a large amount of money to get him to come away from Twitch, but it did hurt his viewership. It did. There's no two ways around it. He has
continual sponsorship's going to be harder.
Yeah. So he needs something to bring him back into the limelight, I suppose, because I haven't watched a Shroud fucking highlights video in months, man. And I used to watch those fucking things all the time. Every time there was a new one, I'd have my iPad sitting in front of me at work and I'd be watching it. And like most.
So you think it's more a PR move?
No, it might not be. He might also be getting bored. Like, what's he playing right now?
Well, it's just shooters generally, right? I think he was playing.
Yeah, he's just floating around between whatever he feels like at the moment. If this game grabs him, the same way PUBG did or the same way CS did, he might want to go back. He might want to go back to it, man. I feel like there's too many variables to say, and it's not like most of these April Fool's jokes that these kind of guys post. It's serious, and then right at the end there's something that's so obviously fake. You're like, oh, okay, fuck you then. It was a joke and you got me. But there's nothing here that says that to me. Maybe I'm missing something.
I mean, we'll just have to see.
Yeah,
if it is an April Fool's joke, it's a win for him.
I mean, it's the second now for us, but I think it's still the first for them, isn't it? So I guess tomorrow, we'll find out if he makes another announcement and says, "Guys, calm down. I'm not going to." It was April Fool's joke. Good to see that I got
debated chat.
Yeah,
debated.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. So by the time this goes out, we'll know for sure whether it was an April Fool's joke or not. So you guys can tell us how good we were with our predictions in the comments section. But turning more to the meat and potatoes. Going back and playing old games.
Give me 2 seconds. Sorry. Okay, continue. Meat and potatoes.
Okay. The meat and potatoes. You said you wanted to talk about going back and playing old games versus playing remastered versions.
Yeah, kind of. So,
I mean, this is you led with this topic this week. I've definitely got my pieces to say, but I think you were definitely the captain of this ship.
Yeah. So, I mean, what kind of sparked this was when we were talking last week about Doom and how Doom 2016 wasn't really nostalgic for you because like probably one of the first Dooms you played would have been either 64 or 3 maybe. Unless you were playing like an older PC
I never played a Doom game. First Doom game I played was Doom 2016.
Oh, well, there you go, man. So it's just a brand new fucking thing for you completely. Whereas for me, it was nostalgic seeing all the old creatures.
Yeah,
like all the old enemies, a lot of them at least recreated.
Like the Caca Demon and stuff.
Yeah, what they did with the Caca Demon mainly, and the Revenants, man. Like the Revenants were scary enough in the old one because they'd fuck you up so quickly, but in this one, like they fucking jetpack around and shit. Like the. It's a whole other
really,
thing.
really terrifying.
Yeah. It was like.
By the way, for those of you that are listening to this one as well, in the last episode we talk a little bit about Doom Eternal and Mick Gordon, who was the composer in that one, and we talk about how he did a lot of work creating a very unique sound for Doom in the soundtrack, and how the soundtrack's a big hype machine, like using and synthesizing a chainsaw and a lawnmower for use in that track. So if you guys want to go back and hear us talk more about Doom Eternal, you can go to the previous episode, which was 7. And there's a lot in there. We talk about Mick Gordon. He's a great dude, really, really talented. But sorry, I thought I should.
No, that's all good. I think this week though we might try and stay away from Doom because we've already.
I think we did it. We did Doom. Yeah. We did the Doom thing.
We talked about it. So I was going to go for like some of the stuff that's maybe a bit less. I don't know, less common to hear about. So,
okay.
I mean, the first one I've got here is going back and playing old games versus playing remastered versions. So, I can't think off the top of my head of a good example of that where I've bothered to play a remastered version because personally I don't want to. I remember playing the game when it first came out or whatever, or like the first time I played it. I don't want to go back and replay it and see all the stuff they've changed that I don't like. Even though there might be changes that I do like, I don't want to see all the stuff that's been fucked by someone who got their hands on the original, got basically agency of like they got the freedom to change something and they did just because they thought it would be good. It wasn't, but they stuck to their guns anyway because they wanted to feel like they made some sort of change and they made it worse. And it got released that way.
You reckon?
There's been some games that I've played like that, for sure. There's been changes that are
Can you give us an example of? I mean, do you have an example of a game that got a remaster where you were maybe so severely disappointed by the remaster you just play the old one instead?
I don't know about remaster so much as like.
Or reboot.
Yeah, like reboot or sequels. I mean, right now I'm wearing my fucking Battletoads shirt on purpose because holy shit. That new one, I didn't even fucking touch it. They fucked the art style completely.
So, okay,
that's not what
here's the thing. Yep. I'm a little bit out of the loop on Battletoads, admittedly.
Okay.
I am aware that there is a particularly hard vehicle level. But that's about it.
Yeah, most of them have that. I think the arcade one doesn't, but the original Nintendo one and Battle Maniacs did.
I'm also aware of the meme that went around a few years ago where people would call up GameStops asking for Battletoads. Yeah.
I mean, that was just to give them the shits, that's all.
Well, it wasn't serious. I mean, that's very up my alley. I'm very aware of that. Battletoads itself, I never played. Yeah.
Oh, man, you're fucking missing out. The first one was kind of hard. It was a good game, but it was kind of hard and not really anything too impressive. Battle Maniacs was probably, I feel like a lot of people around our age group inside of like, I don't know, 5 to 8 years, probably played Battle Maniacs first because it was the Super Nintendo one. Fewer people maybe played Battletoads and Double Dragon. Because there was a game that had them both, which was just fucking insane. Like enemies, you could pick any of the 3 Toads or Billy or Jimmy Lee from Double Dragon to play as, and any combination was 2-player, and then you just played through stages sort of inspired from both series and beat the shit out of enemies from both series of games. It's just a mix of like.
Sounds pretty dope.
It was actually a lot of fun, but it wasn't as good as like the first two Double Dragon games or Battle Maniacs, I think.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
Anyway, Battle Maniacs is probably the first one that a lot of people remembered. There was a lot of I think for the time, for how cartoony it looked, it was fairly over the top violence.
Mm-hmm.
The arcade game took that a step further. It was very violent. I remember one move in particular, which I couldn't stop laughing at when I first played it.
So it was like some Mortal Kombat finisher sort of things.
Oh, kind of. There's an enemy that's like a lot of the enemies are like rats or pigs. It's like a rat that's roughly 2 times the height of or size of the toads. It's a big enemy.
Okay.
It's not a good idea to try and run up and start punching at it because it can outrange you. If you can manage to get close enough to grapple it, the typical grapple animation is like them just grabbing whatever is in front of them, like most beat 'em up, side-scrolling beat 'em up games. The grapple animation for this big rat is they grab it on the cock, man. They grab it straight on the dick.
What?
And it holds its hands up and freezes like it's getting its fucking dick squeezed. And then they like draw the other arm back, ready for you to start hitting the button to punch it in the dick, and you just repeatedly slam it in the fucking cock. It's the fucking best. It's the best fucking grappling like attack I've seen in a side-scrolling beat 'em up ever. It's fucking brutal.
That's awful.
And it has like what's the teacher from Daria? I can't remember his fucking name.
Oh,
the one whose eye like pops out, like has the one eye that fucking pops out whenever he gets stressed.
I'm drawing a blank here, man.
It does, yeah, it doesn't. Anyway, like when you grab it and every time you punch it, like there's an eye that like it's popping out of its fucking skull. It's pretty graphic. And like this was an arcade game. This was a like upright machine that I presume kids could walk up to, put money in, and play, punch giant rats.
And then years later, they've come back and they've done would you call it a remaster or a reboot?
I feel like it's a reboot.
A reboot. And just to clarify here, we're differentiating remasters and reboots as like a remaster is going back, probably reskinning the game. I think a remaster doesn't change the mechanics in any way.
So to me, a remaster would be like what they did with Halo, the original one.
Yes, or the new Modern Warfares.
Yeah, remastered. Yeah, not 2019, but I get what you mean. The one that came with Infinite Warfare.
No.
You had to buy Infinite Warfare to get it. That fucking one. Yeah.
Yeah. No, the Modern Warfare, the one that we're with Warzone right
now. Is a
now.
reboot.
Well, here's the thing. It's a prequel.
Yeah, it's a prequel that doesn't make sense though, because now
why would you call the prequel the same fucking thing as the game that you're a prequel to?
Well, not only it now makes no sense because like there's equipment in there that doesn't make sense for them to have because it wasn't.
Anyway, wasn't around.
Let's not.
Yeah.
Let's not. Well, yeah. So that's.
I want to talk about that a little bit later. Actually, I want to circle back to that.
All right. You can rant about that one because I don't want to.
I'm gonna have a fucking field day with this, man. I'll tell you what.
So playing the old games, I'd rather go back and play the original Halo on Xbox the way I remembered playing it, with all of its bugs and its jankiness, because there was a lot of fucking bugs and weirdness in it at times. It wasn't a perfect game. It was a lot of fucking fun though, and I'm happy to go back and play that on an old Duke controller. Fuck, I've got one here. I've got a USB Duke controller.
Wow.
One of those Hyperkin ones. I've also got an original one stashed away that the cable on it fucked up. So I took it out and I replaced it with just a normal USB cable. And some guy years ago made drivers to make the original Duke controllers work on Windows.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So yeah, it's just a normal Xbox controller.
Shout out to that guy.
Yeah, I wish I knew who it was so I could give him credit. But
send him a Christmas card, man.
Oh man, I was like fucking 16 or something when I did that. 15, 16 when I did that because the controller was fucked. So I just fucked the cable off and was like, oh, I wonder if because I knew that the ports in original Xbox were USB, but a different shape. Like they'd made their own type of plug, but the connection type was just regular USB.
Right.
So you could plug the shit into Windows and it would work in theory if you had drivers for it. And some guy made drivers. Anyway, getting away from the point, which is remasters versus reboots, and playing the old ones versus these new versions, I suppose. With Halo, I would rather just play the original one.
Halo, like CE?
Yeah, Combat Evolved, yep.
So here's the thing, right? When they released the 10th anniversary edition, and I went and looked this up just after we'd started recording, because I could vaguely remember a series doing this, and it didn't hit me until later that it was actually Halo CE. When they did the anniversary edition, you could hot swap between the old graphics and the new graphics.
Yep.
So I think if you hit select on the controller, it would swap you between the modern day and the old school graphics. I think that if you're going to do a remaster like that, that's a good way to do it.
Give us the option.
Honestly, give the people you want the option, because you're providing something there in that it's available on multiple platforms. It's not just available on the old school platform, so it makes it more accessible. But if it is just a blatant reskin like that, I don't want to feel like I'm being lied to when you just guzzy it up with a fresh bit of paint and then you say, this is something new. No, what you're doing is you're offering something on top of something old.
I'd be interested.
If you're re-releasing it on a new platform with both, I feel like you've added value, and I'm usually not as mad.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it'd be interesting to know whether they did anything to the engine, like the way that the game plays, the way the game feels to play. If you side by side had those two games, like just the original Xbox with CE, everyone calls it CE now. Everyone that I used to know would just call it Halo 2, Halo 3. No one ever said CE. I don't know where that came from. But anyway,
I think it came in when they did the anniversary edition.
Yeah, maybe. I never bought or played any of that. Because I'd already played the fuck out of the original one anyway. Like, there's no reason for me to go back to that game, I think. Unless, like, for some reason I wanted to do a co-op play through with somebody for some sort of content, or just to have a fun time with a friend. But I've played the fuck out of it years ago, when it was like one of the 3 games that I had on my Xbox at the time. You know, that was one of my 3 options, so I just played that mostly. There's no reason for me to go back and play that. And definitely not like a reskinned version, or, you know, we fixed all these bugs with the with the engine. We fixed these other bugs that used to happen sometimes. Also, we made all these changes. It's like, well, now it's like, it's not the game I remember, and it's like not really a new game either, so I'm less interested. I feel like that's a big thing for me as well. If you're going to take an old game like that, try and like basically remake it, but not add anything new and interesting, just fix problems, but also take away things that, like, not all bugs are bad, man. Some of the bugs are fun or like exploitable to.
I think it really has to be a passion project. I think it's a very obscure way of putting it, but I think I need to feel the love when the remake comes out. Like when Halo CE came out, and it was the 10th anniversary edition, it felt like Bungie was like showing us photos of its kid. Bungie came in and it was like, dude, look at how cute my kid is, right? And, you know, maybe you saw that kid when it was really, you're like, oh shit, yeah, no, kid's pretty cute. You know what?
Here it is 10 years later.
Right? It didn't just feel like Bungie was walking up to me and it was grabbing me by the sack and winding up to punch me in the cock and steal from my wallet, right? Like, circling to that Battletoads reference. Because, you know, that's what I got from CE. From CE, I really felt the love in that, you know? And a lot of that's still the same. Something that I don't share that opinion for, all right? And I'm crowbarring it in here.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Because I'm mad about it.
We can move to that.
And if I don't get rid of the feels that I have about this, it's just going to bother me.
Should I like cut here and then like just put in some angry music and just have like rant time on the fucking Hamish's rant, Hash Brown's rant?
I want to talk about the Modern Warfare 2 remake. I want to talk about all the Modern Warfare remakes, okay? Because Modern Warfare 2 was my like early high school, late primary school years. Like Modern Warfare 2, and I say Modern Warfare 2 because I didn't pick up the subsequent games. I didn't play Black Ops. My brother got Black Ops, and then we sort of started playing a little bit of zombies after that. But Modern Warfare 2 was my jam, right? I was absolutely fantastic. I loved the ACR. People hated the ACR because it was just a fucking laser. I loved the Spaz 12 shotgun. That thing was an absolute beast and it sounded fantastic, right? That game holds so many memories for me because, and one of the biggest ones, right, is because Modern Warfare 2 was one of the first games where it sort of really had, in recent memory for me, right? I know back... Probably when you were playing in arcades, Mortal Kombat caused a huge ruckus because of the violence and whatnot that was involved in that one. But I know Modern Warfare 2, no Russian was huge. That was insane. For those of you that have been living under a rock for 5 to 10 years, no Russian is that level when Makarov and 3 other Russians, I think, and one of them is you, Alex, who's a spy, walk out of an elevator and mow down civilians in an airport, right? No Russian is this flagpole in the sand for me when I knew that video games weren't just like a me thing or just like a nerd thing. I knew that was an everybody thing, right? Because no Russian really brought it to the mainstream, at least for me. And one of the weirdest things I think playing the new Modern Warfare reboot was when they brought back a lot of these beloved characters. They brought back Price and they brought back Ghost. And Ghost's mask in the new one shits me off.
Yeah, it's not put this like good, is it?
No, they didn't. They put this like polymer skull on the front of it, and then you can get another skin to add the mandible of the skull. Why? Who does that? All the other operators have a little bit of flair, but it's generally military based. This guy's wearing a fucking skull on the front of a balaclava. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
It's not good, is it?
And then, you know why? I fucking looked at it and I was like, why would they change Ghost's mask? Why would they change something so iconic?
You have to buy it, don't you?
So they can fucking charge for it.
Yeah.
In the Warzone thing, there's a Ghost pack where you can get the OG Ghost skin. With the balaclava. And you know how I know that they skinned my boy? You know how I know that they did it? They included the voice line, "Stay Frosty" for Ghost in this pack. I lost my fucking mind. And I know a lot of people are sitting there and they're like, yeah, it's a new game. Why wouldn't you pay money to have an old character put in there? The old character's in there already. And you have to pay for him, right? You have to pay for new Ghost with the polymer mask. But now you have to pay on top of that to get the bloody regular balaclava. And so it just...
None of this should surprise you. None of this should surprise you.
None of this is surprising. But here's the other thing. Halo Anniversary, I think, came out on cycle for Halo, didn't it?
I have no idea.
Halo Anniversary came out during the Halo release schedule. I stand to be corrected, right? I haven't Googled this, and somebody in the comments will probably tell me otherwise.
I didn't realize they had one.
These Modern Warfare reboots are being latched onto the bigger game releases.
Yeah.
There's an argument to be said, you're getting more content in a shorter amount of time, but it just doesn't feel that way.
You're getting
feels
old
like
content.
I'm being scalped.
You're getting old content that's been made to look prettier, and you're asked to be paying more for it.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And I think it's definitely making... It's a different feeling. Halo CE felt like a celebration. It felt like they were like, hey, again, look at my kid 10 years later.
Yeah.
Right? This feels like, hey, man, we know you loved it. How about you cough up $30 and we let you do that all over again?
Do you want to pay for it again? Oh, and like all these other bits that we've taken off it that it used to have just as part of the game. Now you have to pay extra for those as well.
It frustrates me because my rational, like, lawyer brain goes, hey, Mish, this is the same thing as Halo Anniversary, right? Why are you complaining? But my heart's going, no, it's not. It's not. They ruined Ghost.
It isn't the same. It's not the same at all.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's because they shit on Ghost first and then they released the good Ghost. That's why I'm mad.
Let me ask you this then. How many microtransactions did Halo Anniversary Edition whatever have? The fucking Master Chief one.
Probably none, actually.
0?
I think the game was
so you just bought it once and you had everything?
Pretty much.
That's the difference.
I stand to be corrected.
If that's the case, I'm pretty sure it was, but if that is the case, that's the difference. You're not being charged extra to get the things that you remember. They're not trying to nickel and dime you over your nostalgia. Which is,
And I tell you what, there's another game that I'll talk about later. That's one of my games that I will talk about. That is there's a reskin remaster, and it is done well. It is done very, very well, and I'm very happy that they're doing that. But we're coming up to the halfway mark, Jim. Are we crowbarring in a sponsor spot?
a fake sponsor again.
Are we? Excuse me, fake sponsor. Totally real sponsor.
Oh,
okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, very.
We haven't got anything written down though.
We'll just freeball it, man. We'll just freeball it. You know, look. Do you want a coffee that will let you shoot lasers out of your eyes?
What the fuck?
What
the fuck is that a fucking reference to? Nothing.
Look, man. Do you want laser eyes?
Not really, no.
Not really. You
Do you want to be
don't
like?
want
I feel like
laser
they'd be
eyes.
like Cyclops, just uncontrollable. That you've got to wear these dumb fucking goggles on all the time, just so you don't accidentally kill everyone and destroy everything around you.
Fair enough. You got
Or
one?
do you need a cup of coffee that's going to keep you calm while you look at all these? Look at how they've microtransactioned your boy. Hidden in behind paywalls.
That's exactly right. Do you want a coffee that will allow you to win every free-for-all lobby in Rust for the rest of your life? How about that? How about that? Ever have to settle the fucking fight with one of your mates? 1v1 me on Rust? That was how arguments were settled in my day. All right? You know, the old blokes are like, wow, and we used to go into an alley and it was a punch-up. And we sort of shook hands and walked away, and that was the end of it. 1v1s on Rust were how it was done in my day. Intervention, throwing knife, quick scopes only.
Intervention, throwing knife, quick scopes only.
FMJ. Intervention FMJ.
I feel like Jazz would know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'd talk to him. He'd know exactly. He'd
Yeah.
know exactly. I'd talk to him and I'd say Model 1887's pre-patch and he'd shudder just the same way that I would. Dude, that game. Oh, God, so many memories.
Yeah, there's fucking nothing there for me, man. It was Quake 3 for me.
Yeah. Anyway, Killer Coffee won't do any of that, but it tastes damn fucking good. So, Killer Coffee, I've been sipping from my mug all night. Obviously, Killer Coffee doesn't sponsor us, but happy for that to change. Happy for that to change.
We're just going to keep talking about them until they tell us to shut the fuck up and stop.
Sam
Stop.
from marketing.
We're not giving you any money or bags of coffee for free. Leave us alone. Can I get one of those cool bullet fucking things? No. Just fuck
I want
off.
the ice cube tray. That's what I want. I
The
want
ice cube tray? What's
tray.
wrong with you? Of all the things, that's what you
The
want.
skull ice cube tray. Yeah, because it's the most eccentric item. No, actually, the bullet thermos is the most eccentric.
I feel like the
item.
bullet
gun
thermos or
mug.
the gun mug. Yeah, those are the weirder ones.
Yes, they got a lot of cool shit.
Yeah, they do actually.
I want all of it. I want all the stuff. I want one of everything.
Oh no, I don't know how new they are, man. But I really only found out about them pretty recently. So
They've been doing a big push into the gaming scene lately.
are they?
I
haven't
know
noticed.
that they've been angling towards gaming more. What could be better than two Australian streamers? Get it. Talk to us, Sam in marketing or whatever your name is. Talk to us. We'll have a discussion.
No. They quite often, I see them having sales all the time, man, and they deliver Australia wide. They also, with the whole COVID thing going on at the moment, they send out an email to everyone who's. I don't know whether you got it. You might have not bought anything from them just yet.
I get so many emails, dude. It's silly.
Yeah, but anyway, they're all still up and running. They're still sending coffee fucking everywhere. So you're going down to your Woolies or Coles, and all the fucking hoarders have bought all the garbage fucking Blend 43 and gold and all that other bullshit out. Fuck that. You don't want that shit anyway. Order some Killer Coffee. Be patient. Wait for it to turn up. It's worth it.
And when the apocalypse comes, you'll run twice as fast because the caffeine content is higher.
Yeah. Just make one of those. Buy one of those big fucking bullet thermoses and just black.
Just yeet them.
Just fucking black
It's
coffee.
like your own 128 millimeter shell.
Oh no. Let's move on.
Now, let's talk about your big boys, because I think we've got a lot to get through.
Well, there's remakes and upgrades.
25 minutes.
Which is like, well, remakes, upgrades, kind of sequels. The first one I've got there's Double Dragon, because it's just so sad what fucking happened to those games, I think.
You're going to have to take the lead on this, because I know fuck all about Double Dragon.
First Double Dragon was big in arcades. It got ported to a bunch of like home PCs and consoles and stuff. The nostalgic one for me is the Master System version. That's just the one that I had and played. I still have it here. I have a copy of it in a box. Like,
so it's a side scroller beat 'em up.
Yep.
Okay.
Fairly basic. There's nothing too out there. There's weapons you can take off enemies or pick up off the ground, throw at them, hit each other with. It was 2-player,
like crowbars and baseball bats and stuff.
Baseball bats, whips.
Whips.
Don't know about the arcade version. I can really only talk about Master System, because that's the one that I played the most. Double Dragon 2 was different depending on what platform you played it on. I think the best version of that was on NES. That's the one that I played as well. A friend had it when I was a kid and played the absolute shit out of that. It was probably one of my favorite original Nintendo games. And then Double Dragon 3 came out and it all fucking went to shit, because that was a terrible game. It had a really good soundtrack. So
this is an example of a failed remake.
That was failed. Well, no, not really, because there was only like a few years between them, I think, each one. So that kind of killed it.
Entry in the series.
Yeah. And there was...
And to be clear, for those of you that... that are wondering, we were trying to avoid including long-running series.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. So this isn't really. Okay, there was those 3 entries. There was a bit of a break, I think. Then there was one on Super Nintendo, which wasn't bad, but it didn't really capture. I feel like the feel of the first 2 games, the grittiness, the attitude that they had, it wasn't there. It was more, it was flashier. It was more
felt like
cleaner.
It got muted a little bit.
Yeah, it was a little bit muted and not quite there. There was also a horrible cartoon series based on them that had absolutely nothing to do really with the games beside the characters' names. Oof. Didn't make any fucking sense. There was a bad movie with what's his fucking name? Robert Patrick. Remember the T-1000? Playing a bad guy that doesn't exist in the games. The whole fucking thing was stupid. There were games based on there was a game based on the cartoon that sucked. There was a game based on the movie that was actually pretty good, but it was like a one-on-one fighter, like Street Fighter, King of Fighters, that sort of shit.
Okay, yeah.
That was a good game, but it was only on Neo Geo, so it was kind of cucked for an audience. Like, I don't think heaps of people got to play it. If it had been on Super Nintendo and, Mega Drive, Genesis, whatever, maybe it would have picked up. But I don't even know if anybody in Australia really knows what the fuck a Neo Geo is. Every time I talk about them, everyone's like, "What the fuck is that?"
I am in that.
In that, yeah. I'm not surprised. Anyway, it just went dark for a long time. They tried rebooting it with Double Dragon Neon, I think it was called. That wasn't really what it was supposed to be. There's another one. It was either Double Dragon 4 or 5 or something it was called. Has a very similar art style to Double Dragon 2, but it wasn't like... Just didn't recapture the same audience that it once had. I think side-scrolling beat-em-up, that type of game has it's kind of been replaced by games like God of War.
Oh yeah,
the 3D.
It's the 3D element. Yeah, absolutely. It adds that literally third dimension. I mean, in a lot of first-person shooters, one of the greatest talking points I think about like Siege and Doom is verticality. Verticality is such a huge thing because it just adds another dimension, which is the third dimension up. Side scrollers always had across and up. They didn't really just have around, if that makes more sense.
Yep.
And then first-person shooters had, across and around.
So how is tying
really
that?
Have up?
Yeah, I get what you mean. That's there's a lot. I think there's a lot of games like that now, that it's hard for people to go back to. Like, I can go back and have a lot of fun playing that original Master System Double Dragon or Double Dragon 2 on NES. But I think if I tried to get you to play either of those two games co-op with me, you would be bored inside of 2 minutes. You'd be like, why are we playing this?
It doesn't have the same feel for me.
It's nothing. Yeah, it's like, this game's fucking boring. Like, why don't we play some like just something else, anything else, anything, please.
I see here you've also got Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah, Twin Snakes. So that was like a kind of like a remake or upgrade sort of thing. It was the original Metal Gear Solid, kind of remade for GameCube. So as far as I know, it was a strange decision if you ask me. It should have been cross-platform, but whatever.
They probably just had a decent amount of money in it.
Well, I mean, the original one came out on PC and PlayStation, original PlayStation.
Right, gotcha.
So Twin Snakes was like an upgrade of Metal Gear Solid. The same story and everything, but they re-recorded, as far as I know, they re-recorded all of the dialogue, because all the dialogue was pretty low quality recordings in Metal Gear Solid. Going back and playing it now, I didn't notice it at the time, but going back and playing it now, I'm like, oh yeah, you can absolutely tell that this was all just recorded in like the lounge room of an apartment, because that's what they did. As far as I know, all the American, like all the English voice actors just recorded in a really scuffed environment. Twin Snakes fixed a lot of shit, and it was kind of like, it's one of those games where like it didn't need to exist. But I think Kojima just wanted to go back and fix it, maybe. I'm pretty sure he was at the head of it, because I know that some of the Metal Gear Solid entries, Metal Gear series entries, he wasn't, like, he had teams that he was just like, here, you do this. And he wasn't really paying attention to it. He was working on main series entries or some other game. Like, he's done other games than the Metal Gear series, Zone of the Enders.
Yep.
Fucking, what's the... Is it Psychonauts? No, not Psychonauts. That's the one that James Williams fucking froths over.
Scribblenauts?
No. Police Nauts. That's what I'm thinking of. Anyway, he's done other games besides Metal Gear. It's just the one that that's the series that everyone mostly knows him for.
Yeah.
It was interesting. It's an interesting game to me, because they took a game that was wildly popular already, didn't need anything done to it really. It didn't need to be fixed. But they found ways to improve it while keeping the original, like what the original offered was intact. They improved everything, released it. I don't know anyone who's ever played Twin Snakes who prefers the original over Twin Snakes for any reason that doesn't make them just sound like an elitist snob, you know.
So Twin Snakes is a good remake.
Yeah, that's an example of a good one. I would say. Shadowrun was like a series that just it's I've got it there, but that's too much. That's too much to fucking talk about here, because it's been so all over the place. There's too much to unpack.
Yeah.
But I played the Super Nintendo one. There's two games released not too far apart from each other. One on Mega Drive or Genesis, and the other one on Super Nintendo, and they were completely different games. They're both good in their own ways. I don't know if you're familiar with Shadowrun, but it's it started as like a pen and paper thing, like D&D.
Right. Oh, okay, yeah.
But like a cyberpunk setting with magic. It's like cyberpunk with magic, dragons and fucking orcs and all sorts of shit.
Okay, cyberpunk with magic. All right.
Yeah,
I'm on board.
Yep.
That's
dude,
it. That's all you were getting right.
That's like, well, I mean, to try and go into any more detail than that would take too long. I'm not gonna waste the next 20 minutes, half hour talking about it.
But they did a good job.
The Super Nintendo and Genesis games, I think, were good. The one that they released on PC and Xbox 360, no, it was fucking horrible. They turned it into a first-person shooter. Like, yeah, it was fucking weird. And now they've kind of reclaimed it and turned it into a story-based thing, turn-based, like strategy, similar sort of thing to XCOM, but it's like it's still RPG. I don't know how to explain it beyond that. Yeah, turn-based RPG, turn-based combat RPG.
I mean, you can have a look at like Divinity Original Sin 2. That's a very D&D faithful game. You've never played that?
No.
Mate, if you were a D&D fan back in the day, I think you would love Divinity Original Sin. I think it's as close as you get to D&D in a video game.
I mean, I've DM'd some Pathfinder games before, so maybe, I don't know, I'll go check it out when I get bored with shooters, because it happens every now and then.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one that's like, that's one was like, I put it there as an example because it's like, they've gone both directions with it. They've had shit and like they've had a lot of success and a lot of like absolute low. Like you couldn't have made something any worse if you tried. They're just not representative of the series at all. The next one, I've got to hand over to you for the next little section here.
Yeah, so I picked 3 that were big for me. There's another one which was a horrible reboot, which was I've actually just dumped in your section. I could talk about that when it comes up. But the 3 that I wanted to talk about was Final Fantasy VII, which is what's coming up.
It's out,
very
isn't it?
soon.
The first one's out, I think. The first part of it.
I think so.
I'm pretty sure my friend sent a snap of
something.
him holding it. No, he had the case, so I'm pretty sure it's out.
Really?
Yeah, he's got it. He's been sending me snaps of him playing it, and I don't
now
care.
available 9 days early in Australia.
Yeah.
Ooh. Fuck me, I'm gonna have to play that then. Okay, so Final Fantasy VII is a huge one. I'll swing around to it in a second. XCOM is another one, and Devil May Cry is another one, and they're all particularly big for me. Final Fantasy VII, especially because I'm a big fan of the Final Fantasy VII specifically story. I know that it's a big overarching story, and Final Fantasy it's in the name, but it's not in the name when they keep saying it's the Final Fantasy when it's really fucking not, because there's like 16 of them now. Yeah. But I have in the back of my stream is a triptych. It's a 3-part painting, which is Sephiroth and Cloud facing off. And a lot of people come into my stream and they ask what that is. There it is. That's what it is. And that's personally because I really, really like a line that Sephiroth has. And I don't know if you ever played the Final Fantasy games.
I played Final Fantasy VII up until I managed to recruit that ninja chick.
Yep.
And then shortly after that, I think I managed to find a Dreamcast that still worked. I gave up on my PlayStation completely. I stopped playing it. So I never finished the game.
Yeah. So, I mean, the best way to explain Sephiroth is the shorthand is he's a terrorist. Mm-hmm. He's a psycho terrorist, basically. And he has this line where he says, "I will never be just a memory." And he's talking about the impact that he's going to have on the world and how it works and how he's going to, people are literally going to change the way that they live and talk because of Sephiroth. So he's never going to just be a memory. His impact on the world is too large. It's also a subtle hint at the fact that he might come back to life in some respect in other, later games. But generally, if you want to take the real fucking highbrow path like I did and think it's very metaphorical and very, very cool, then that's what you think about. It's about the impact. And I really love that. I really, really like that idea of legacy. I like that idea that you can leave a mark. So that's why I ended up getting that painting. So Final Fantasy is really, really close to me. And I also had Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core on my PlayStation Portable. And that was a fantastic game. Here's the thing about Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy has always had a raging hard-on for spectacular graphics. I think if you've ever seen the cutscenes from a Final Fantasy game, they always look absolutely amazing. They look incredible. And I think that Final Fantasy especially benefits so much from modern technology. Taking these scenes that really kind of got people and being able to punch them through today's modern engine is absolutely fantastic. Like, the original Final Fantasy VII had a lot of boards that had like the towns basically. It was just textures pasted there and they were kind of stitched together.
Yeah, I remember.
And you sort of had to like suspend disbelief to kind of think that it was all connected into one big city. Modern technology lets you do that. It lets you, create a render distance and a field, and it definitely all feels connected. It all feels like a living, breathing city. And of course, they've got that iconic train station scene at the opening of the game. So that it was just a huge wave of nostalgia. And I think Final Fantasy specifically is a fantastic reboot or remake even, specifically because Final Fantasy focuses so much on the aesthetics of the game. And I think that it benefits so greatly from modern technology. XCOM's kind of in the same boat. XCOM's a huge game for me. I've got hundreds of hours in that. I play it on stream. It's a big event whenever I play it with my viewers.
It's a good one for me because I feel like you would have... This is another game like Doom 2016 where you only played the new one.
Yeah.
I've played the original. That's how fucking old I am. I played the original before this reboot ever surfaced.
Yeah, so we're very much on the same page there. Like I went and played the original XCOM and I absolutely loved that. And then XCOM 2 was what really, really got me. In part because they did such a good job with the DLC in XCOM 2. But that game really benefited from a modern engine. XCOM 1 was it was pretty well groundbreaking in what it did, at least in that time, in that space. And then XCOM 2 was kind of like more of the same, and it drew a little bit of flack from critics for that. But it's XCOM. There's not a lot of games that you can say that XCOM drew from. The conversation usually is, oh, this game's a lot like XCOM. You know, it's the flag in the sand.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that there's huge things to be said about that. And I think it benefited so greatly from the modern audience. Like XCOM still has a big base of people that play it. Just because, for one, they opened up the mod tools. And so the modding community just keeps it alive. But also, it's just fundamentally at its core a very good concept that allows for great replayability. The last one I had on my list was Devil May Cry. And Devil May Cry is kind of like a bit of a meme because when you play... Now, what I'm talking about here specifically is the 2013 DMC game, yeah? And that's the one where they had the Dante with the short black hair rather than the
I remember
white hair.
I remember there being a lot of fucking memes about that. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
So the thing about DMC was an awesome game, right? The way that played was very, very cool. When you talk about DMC, and I'm going to refer to it as DMC as opposed to Devil May Cry, right? When you talk about DMC to people that are a huge fan of the Devil May Cry series, they absolutely shit on it. They will not hear anything about it. They will make memes about it till the cows come home. I've seen walls upon walls of memes where they do, the Chad Virgin thing, and it's just both versions of the Dante.
Yeah.
I could cover a bus with it. Like, they absolutely hate it. And it was a solid game. The thing about Devil May Cry is the gameplay is always fluid. If you go back and you play DMC 1, you get it. Like, it just feels good. It doesn't feel as good as some of the newer games. They really polished their craft as they went along. But that's always the thing about DMC is always about the combat feels amazing, and it's always about going back and playing those levels and doing it better and flashier. That's the appeal of DMC. That particular game, though, was panned as a reboot, even though it was a great game, and it came this really like polarizing, weird mix of shit and gold. Like that's the best way I can put it. Is because it had this really divisive opinion because it was a great game, but it strayed away from this other great series. So it just felt like an imposter, if that makes sense. And I think that's what created a lot of friction in that game. But we might need to lightning round these last few that we've got.
No, let's skip over the next bit because I don't want to go too negative. Let's go straight to sequels done right.
Sequels done right. I mean, can we just briefly touch on Duke Nukem and how that was a shit game?
Duke Nukem Forever.
Yep.
It was pretty bad. It took away everything that was fun about, like, what was the last main entry? I suppose Duke 3D that they just kept making versions of on everything. It took everything
10
that was
years
fun
in development
and fucked it off.
And it was gross.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that's all that needs to be said.
It was a fuck up. But they know that, man. They know that. If they bring him back, I hope they do bring Duke back the same way, id Software. I keep saying ID, but it's id. Did with Doom. I want to see Duke come back properly and have them take the piss out of Duke Nukem Forever. Like they'll have to do something like...
They have to.
Yeah.
You can't avoid that. You'd have to do that, especially as a Duke game.
Yeah.
Sequel's done right.
So, Elite Dangerous. I know that you didn't play any of the old ones, but
I'm
I
very
did briefly.
familiar with Elite Dangerous, the new one, to a certain extent. I haven't played a huge amount of it, but I'm familiar with Space Trucking Simulator.
I mean, one of the guys in our community, Ilwood, has played a bit of it.
He actually gifted me Elite Dangerous on stream. Yeah, and he was like, play it on stream, and I tried it, and I was like, man, I can't.
Nah, look,
can't.
I don't know how he plays it with a mouse and keyboard. It's fucked to play with a mouse. You should not do it. You should, at the very least, use a gamepad of some sort. You're better off using like a stick and throttle like I do.
Yeah.
But anyway, that is one that's like, it was kind of dead for a long time. I think the last one came out in like 95 or 98 or something. And then, 2014, 2015 or something. I think it was around then. They sort of released Elite Dangerous, some sort of early access beta or something, closed beta or whatever. And they've just been, I don't know, adding to it and polishing it as they go along. They have been doing it right, I think. There are microtransactions in there, but it's all cosmetic. It is entirely cosmetic. You cannot pay for any sort of advancement, any edge in combat, any boost in fucking money or reputation or anything like that. Everything that you get as far as equipment goes that actually makes any sort of changes to how the game plays
tangible difference,
has to be earned. You have to put the time in and have the skill and the luck, I guess, in some cases, to unlock the equipment and use the equipment that you want. They also listen to
that's a very
community
fulfilling sort of game style, I think.
Well, I know it pisses some people off because there's people who jump into it now and the game's been out for over 4 years, and from their point of view, they're like, oh man, there's all these guys cruising around with all these better ships, blah blah blah. Like I can't do any PvP. It's like, well then play solo for a while or wing up with people. They'll give you a boost. They'll help you earn money. They'll help point you in the right direction as far as engineering your ship goes. Like, because there is basically off-the-shelf parts, and then there's engineering, which is like customization, in-depth sort of, and that's something that I've barely touched on in like my gameplay hours. But fuck, man, there's guys who are just absolutely fanatical about it, and yeah, they've made some absolute fucking monstrous ships.
Just by engineering
the capabilities. Yeah, the capabilities are just ridiculous what they can do with a ship. But yeah, anyway, I think that's one that's been done right, like done really fucking well, and they've kind of not so much flown under the radar, but like there hasn't really been any major outcry that I've known of where they've pissed off the player base, and that I think is pretty uncommon for these kind of like games that just come back from the dead. Usually there's something the players are pissed off about, the old players or new players. Almost always. Doom didn't have that, I think
people are far more ready to complain than they are to compliment.
Definitely.
I think that's one of the big things.
And it's really fucking hard to avoid it.
Oh, yeah. It's almost impossible.
So, I just thought I thought it was really fucking well done. It's a game that I can have fun with, but it's not something that I usually play by myself. So I haven't played it on stream only a couple times, I think. I got to try and
you'll have to squat up with Ilwood or maybe make some YouTube stuff about it.
Yeah. Squat up with Woody maybe. I don't know. We got to try and drag you into it. I think there's some good content there.
Yeah, maybe for YouTube. In any event, I think we're hitting that hour mark. So if any of you guys listening now, if you've got games that were rebooted that maybe we didn't touch on, whether they're a good or a bad version, be sure to head on over, leave us a comment. On YouTube is probably the best way to get us, or you can yell at us on Twitter at NULLSCORE. Because we've got a NULLSCORE Twitter now. I keep forgetting to mention that. Or you can yell at Titan or I, at Viscerus or at Titan5150, where the I is a 1. And or you can yell at us on Twitch with the same handles. You come and tell me how the fucking Bionic Commando sequel was good, and I'll tell you to fuck off. Yeah. And I'll listen to you as to why Modern Warfare 2 isn't a cash grab, and then I will yell at you. So, It's a two-way street. We love interacting with you guys. Oh god, dude, we didn't read a fucking comment.
We didn't. We can. We didn't do last week either. So we got like
Oh
two.
no.
You didn't realize?
Okay. I didn't realize. No. Okay, hang on. Let's have a look.
Mate.
Episode 7. Let me see.
You do episode.
This one comes from Eyehole Man. He says, my first console was the Nintendo 64, smashing Super Mario and GoldenEye. My first PC game was Quake 3 Arena, and while my high school friends were wasting time on Halo, I was aim training with the railgun. Great podcast and vid, guys. Thank you, Eyehole Man, for that. Did I tell you, he came into my stream whilst I was playing Legends of Runeterra, and he said he was talking about how much he loved the podcast. That was a very cool... very cool.
Yeah, he's let me know as well, dude. I don't know how long I've known him for. He's been in and out of my stream since maybe only a couple months in, when I used to play PUBG all the time. I've managed to catch him for a few games of PUBG then, I think. Back when pretty much all I would play was Sandhawk on SEA servers. He's local to me, but I've never managed to catch up with him in real life.
Well, shout out to Eyehole Man.
Thanks for the support,
cool,
man. We appreciate the comments.
Thanks,
actually, I know I make jokes about it all the time, but I do. It's nice to hear that kind of shit.
It really is. Yeah. Quarantine. Toby Flockhart Walker said, a comedian from Melbourne, Lewis Spears, argues that there isn't a too soon when it comes to jokes. Jokes are so called because they are purely for comedic intent and not an actual opinion to be followed. Another Aussie comedian, Steve Hughes, has joked about people being offended. It doesn't matter if you get offended by something. Grow up. Nothing happens when you get offended. I've seen this. I've seen that skit. This Steve Hughes. He's like a really long-haired bloke, and he's like, "Oh, I was offended. I was offended." It's a fucking great skit. And Lewis Spears does Lou Reviews, a series on YouTube. He gets offended by boy bands, for fuck's sake. But you don't see him calling up a current affair and bitching about it. You don't get leprosy after being offended. And there shouldn't be lines when it comes to comedy.
Yeah.
So we were talking about Casey Tron's band and whether she should have been banned. She's been unbanned now, by the way.
Yeah, wow, what a surprise, man. Twitch want to make money off those titties. Situation.
Yeah. Also, just outrage. Twitch and outrage go hand in hand. They usually get shit on whenever that happens. Also, just a worthy note, Luke Hargrave said, side note, what the fuck is Australia doing with 4-ply bog roll, 2-ply is standard in the UK, and 3-ply is luxury?
Wasn't he listening to the outro? Two-ply is no fucking good. It's too easy to give yourself an accidental prostate exam.
Nah.
Luke.
It would be the worst.
You're not.
And he's also timestamped the series of events that goes into the K98K straps saga. So if you guys want to check that out, that's in episode 6. Episode 7, of course, was flutes, lutes, and 8 strings, or I think I called it Sound Blast on Spotify.
Yeah,
I gave it the tag. I tend to give all of the podcasts like recognizable like taglines so that if you guys want to go back and search through it, maybe you remember a good one, they're easily identifiable that way. And a guy called Tim says, nice video, it was really good. He also says the same comment on a whole lot of other videos.
Does he?
So
It
Tim,
might be a bot account.
It is absolutely a bot account. Tim, actually, he's quite a large channel. He's got 265k subscribers. Jesus. Oh, his top 3 videos are gain likes, gain views, and gain subs fast. Is it through the use of bots, Tim? Oh, he has no videos. So you link. Oh, wow.
So they're linked from another account.
He's got Tim, which has 265k subscribers. Tim, which has 531k subscribers. And Tim Second, which has 9.18k subscribers.
What?
Yeah, he is. I'll send you this link so you can put it in the top left or whatever. But
do you want me to?
Tim. Just blur it.
You want to feed the bot account?
We're not giving this guy.
You
want
to feed the bot account?
Tim, listen, Tim. From me to you, fuck you. Thank you for commenting, Tim, but fuck you, Tim. In any event,
thanks for the comment, Tim. Unless you're a bot, in which case, fuck you.
Fuck you, Tim. Yeah. And to all the Tims out there that we've just told to fuck off, we love you guys.
Sorry,
Except
Tim.
that Tim.
Sorry, other Tims.
Sorry, Tim. Sorry, other Tims. Sorry, Tim Tams. In any event, I think we need to roll the outro, Eddie.
Oh, the fucking outro. Why is it always roll the outro? You never thank anyone for... Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next week. Why can't you just say that?
Okay, well, thank you for watching. Jesus. Makes it sound so
fucking
insincere
hell.
when you make me do it.
Yeah,
Roll
it
the
does.
outro, Eddie.
Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.
See ya.
Oh, fuck. I actually have something completely off topic because I just thought it would be funny. So I got asked, I'm going to try make this as quick as possible so I don't have to edit the fuck out of it. I got asked, wouldn't you prefer a virgin? I'm like, no. My answer was no. They're like, why not? It's like, why? And they're like, well,
Why?
I said, because they have no idea what the fuck they want. How are you supposed to work around that?
I was wondering why you wouldn't put this in the podcast.
Yeah,
I know immediately.
Yeah. So this is nothing to do with everything else we're talking about. But anyway, I was like, no, they don't know what the fuck they want. And then this person's like, but then you can help them figure it out. And my immediate response was, okay, imagine every single conversation you've had where you ask a woman, what do you want to eat? And she's like, I don't know. And then everything that you suggest is wrong, is no. Imagine that, except sex, the middle of sex. And she doesn't know. Everything's wrong, but she doesn't know what she wants. Then that's why. That's why I don't want that. Why would anyone want that? Figure it out with some other fucking yobbo. Come to me when you know what you want.
Go work it out yourself.
Should we fucking hit the button?
All right, I think I'm done. I'm hitting the button.